The encounter beyond comprehension. A terrifying revelation. On a chilly autumn evening in 2022, I found myself driving along a desolate stretch of Highway 34, far from any signs of civilization. The sky was overcast and the air was thick with an eerie silence. As I continued my journey, I noticed a faint humming sound that seemed to be growing louder with each passing mile. Suddenly, my car's electronics went haywire. The headlights flickered and the radio emitted a shrill, piercing noise. It was then that I saw it. A swirling vortex of colors in the sky, pulsating and shifting like a living entity. The ground beneath me trembled, and I felt as if an invisible force was pulling me towards the anomaly. Unable to resist the pull, I found myself getting out of my car and approaching the vortex. As I drew closer, I realized that it was not a mere light in the sky, but a tear in the fabric of reality itself. I could see through it to a realm that defied all logic and understanding. Before I knew what was happening, I was pulled through the rift and into a world that existed beyond the boundaries of human comprehension. I stood on the edge of a cliff overlooking a vast, otherworldly landscape filled with bizarre, twisted structures and creatures that defied description. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, and the ground beneath my feet seemed to be alive, writhing and shifting as if it were trying to swallow me whole. As I stumbled through the nightmarish landscape, the twisted creatures that inhabited this realm began to take notice of my presence. From the shadows emerged beings that seemed to be composed of pure energy. Their forms shifted and undulated like the surface of the ocean, and their eyes held a depth of wisdom and sorrow that I couldn't fathom. They communicated with me not through words, but through a series of images and emotions that flowed directly into my consciousness. At first, their message was one of warning and despair. They showed me the fragility of our world, the interconnectedness of all living things, and the consequences of our actions. I felt the pain and suffering that we, as a species, have inflicted upon ourselves and our planet. The beings implored me to take this knowledge back with me, to share it with others, and help to heal the wounds we have caused. But as I continued to communicate with these beings, their message took a darker turn. They revealed to me their true nature, ancient, malevolent entities that had once ruled over our world, casting it into darkness and chaos. They had been banished to this realm by forces beyond our understanding, and now they sought to return and reclaim their dominion over our reality. The horrifying truth began to dawn on me. They had lured me here, not to impart wisdom, but to use me as a vessel through which they could return to our world. As I tried to resist their influence, the entities began to torment me with visions of the unspeakable horrors they would unleash upon humanity. Their laughter echoed in my mind as I was thrust back through the rift and found myself standing beside my car on the desolate highway. The vortex in the sky had vanished, leaving only the memory of my encounter with the unknown. Now, haunted by the knowledge of what lies beyond the veil of our reality, I struggled to prevent the return of these ancient horrors. I share my story not as a warning, but as a desperate plea for help. For I fear that, should I fail, the world as we know it will be plunged into an age of darkness and terror from which it may never recover. The Cult of the Forgotten. A chilling encounter in the deep forest. My name is John Patterson, and ever since I was a child, I've been fascinated by the untamed wilderness and the mysteries it holds. My father was a park ranger, and he would often take me on hikes and camping trips, instilling in me a deep respect and love for nature. He taught me how to survive in the wild and navigate the most treacherous terrains. His stories about ancient legends and unexplained phenomena only fueled my curiosity. It was the summer of 2022, and I had decided to spend a week in the remote wilderness of Northern California. exploring the ancient forests that was said to hide countless secrets. I'd always been drawn to the idea of uncovering the mysteries of the natural world, and this trip was my chance to do just that. After several days of hiking, I found myself deep within the forest, surrounded by towering redwoods that seemed to touch the sky. The silence was both eerie and calming, and the sense of isolation was palpable. But as the sun began to set on my third day in the wilderness, I stumbled upon something that would change my life forever. I came across a small clearing, and in its center stood an ancient moss-covered altar made of stone. Carvings of strange symbols and twisted, monstrous faces adorned its surface, and the air around it seemed to hum with a palpable energy. Intrigued, I decided to investigate the area further. As I explored the clearing, I found a series of small trails that seemed to lead deeper into the forest. Curiosity getting the better of me, I decided to follow one of these paths, hoping it would lead me to the source of the mysterious energy I had felt at the altar. The path took me through dense undergrowth, and as the light of day began to fade, I found myself surrounded by darkness. But even as the shadows closed in around me, I could sense that I was not alone. I could hear faint whispers in the wind, and the rustling of leaves suggested that something was lurking just out of sight. Then, as the last rays of sunlight vanished behind the trees, I stumbled upon a sight that I will never forget. There, in the heart of the forest, was a group of wild, disheveled people. They wore tattered clothing made from animal skins and bore strange, primitive tattoos on their bodies. Their eyes were wild and full of madness, and they danced and chanted around a roaring fire. In the center of their frenzied ritual, I saw a massive statue of a grotesque ancient god, its form twisted and terrible. As the firelight flickered across its hideous features, I could see that the statue seemed to be alive, its eyes glowing with a malevolent intelligence. As I watched in horror, the wild people began to perform strange and horrifying rites, offering up sacrifices to their forgotten deity. Animals were slaughtered, and their blood was used to anoint the statue, causing it to pulse with a dark, unearthly power. Unable to tear my gaze away from the nightmarish scene before me, I suddenly found myself discovered by the wild cultists. They turned their mad eyes upon me, and I could feel their hatred and rage as they gave chase. I fled through the dark forest, the sounds of their pursuit echoing in my ears. I ran until my legs could carry me no further, collapsing in a clearing far from the twisted ceremony. As I lay there exhausted and terrified, I knew that I had to warn others about the dangers hidden in the depths of the forest. I managed to make my way back to civilization, haunted by the memory of that horrifying encounter. Since then, I have dedicated my life to exposing the existence of these wild cultists and the dangers they pose. I've written articles, given interviews, and even led expeditions back into the heart of the forest, hoping to find evidence of their sinister activities. Despite my efforts, many people still dismiss my story as the product of an overactive imagination or a case of mistaken identity. But I know the truth, and I have made it my mission to make sure that others do as well. As the years have passed, I've discovered more about the ancient god they worship, and the powers it supposedly bestows upon its followers. It is a god of chaos and darkness, a being that seeks to corrupt and consume all that it touches. And I fear that the cult's influence may be spreading beyond the remote wilderness where I first encountered them. Every now and then, I hear whispers of other strange sightings and inexplicable events that seem to be connected to the cult's activities. People disappearing, strange symbols found carved into trees or etched into the ground, and even rumors of more hidden altars deep within the forest. Though I have yet to find definitive proof of their existence, I remain steadfast in my pursuit,